All right, let's do it. Let's do it.
All right, guys. I say Titan, you say up. Titan. Titan. You get plenty of more of that in
I think
September.
the lag, there might be a little lag on there, but we did a little better.
At the very least, this is going to make for a great blooper reel, and I've got people looking at me from outside the office, so it was worth it for that.
This is the Snowball Effect. You're listening to the Marketing Playbook series, presented by the Snowball Effect podcast. It's growth done right.
Movers, pay attention, because I've got two legends in the moving industry here with us today, and I want to introduce the first one to you. First, we've got Chad Coatney, and he is the CEO of Master Movers. Chad, good to have you on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Todd. Looking forward to it.
Great. And because one is just not enough, I've also got Wade Swikle. He's the CEO of Two College Brothers Moving and Storage, and he's the host of Grow Your Moving Company podcast. Wade, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
And I'm always nervous when I have a host of another podcast because I think the whole time they're thinking, well, that's not how I would have asked the question, Todd. So just take it easy on me, will you?
Does Wade have a podcast? I wasn't aware.
It's only the longest actively running moving industry podcast, Chad. You should tune in sometime.
That's awesome.
Wade's
Well,
podcast has helped me, and I'm sure many others, grow our moving company. So thank you, Wade,
it's awesome.
for all your time and effort. We know you're just doing it to be famous, but there is some good quality information on there, so we appreciate you.
Okay, I want to get this started by learning just a little bit about the two of you and your origins, because I was doing some research online. I looked up your bio, Wade, and it says that you started your moving company with $600 and a pickup truck, while Chad started his with a trailer and what was it, $5,000? Chad, is that right?
I think
So
I actually had
wanna-
10 grand, but yes.
10 grand? All right,
$5,000
all
on
right.
my first moving truck.
You got a head start.
So yeah, I want to hear which of you has had it worse, and why does that make you the better human being? I've got to know.
Is this where we say? Is this where I say why I have it worse?
Whatever makes you look like a better human and more impressive in the eyes of other moving owners.
Or did you have it worse when you started? I think.
I don't know if I had it worse than Wade. I don't really know exactly everything Wade went through at the beginning, but I know whoever starts a moving company has it tough. It's a hard business to be in. It's a hard business to grow. It takes a long time to grow your reputation and your repeat and referral business and to make a name for yourself and to get all those 5-star reviews on Google. I would say I probably was my biggest hurdle was myself to get through. I have never ran my own company before. I never went to college for business, so I was just trying to figure it out on the fly. The only thing I had was grit and, determination to never give up. I'm like a cockroach, you can't kill me, So, I started actually doing furniture deliveries for like $100 to $150 a delivery, 8 or 9 of those a day, and there's not a lot of money in that, is what I found, and it wasn't. It was a lot of customer service, a lot of different customers, a lot of different time frames, a lot of risk of damaging new furniture that we're delivering. So I kind of went at it the wrong way. I didn't look for or know of any education to run a moving company or any conferences or things like that. And I didn't have anybody to really talk to. I kind of didn't have that abundance mindset. I thought I had to protect all my secrets, which I realized I didn't have any secrets worth protecting. And, something I think that made my moving, starting my moving company kind of tough is we had a really bad accident, probably year 3 with a fatality. And that was something I wish nobody ever has to go through. So that kind of was a kick in the teeth for a long time and definitely had me questioning what the heck I was doing. I would say that's probably the biggest hurdle I've ever had to go through, and that's why I had a harder time than Wade starting my moving company and growing my company.
I love it, and I appreciate the candor. So Wade, what have you got? He had more cash to start with, but using his own words, he also had the obstacle of Chad to get over, which you didn't have to deal with. So tell me about your origin and how does it compare to his?
Yeah, I mean, starting it wasn't really the hard part. It was really getting it to a level that was sustainable and something where I could actually make a living on it. When I first started, I was in a college town. I went to the University of Florida. I was in a fraternity there. And so I had an entire fraternity house of labor that could come and help. And back then, I wasn't trying to charge, professional mover prices. I would post on Craigslist, and I basically saved up $600 after working with another moving company for a little while to get the insurance policy in order to get a license. I think a lot of companies that started around that 2008 to 2012 period were basically starting very similarly with posting ads on Craigslist back when that was actually, kind of a relevant platform. And we didn't want to be a moving company, like a traditional moving company. I thought that this whole niche of helping college students, hiring college students, doing it for the lowest possible price compared to people that were charging 2, 3, even 4 times what we were charging was this model that was going to be what separated us from everybody, and that we were like a college student moving company. But I quickly realized that that was not a very sustainable business model. You've got, I think I referred to it in my book as herding a bunch of drunk cats when it came to getting my fraternity brothers to come and show up at 7, 8 a.m. for a move and go and protect people's belongings. And I guess I was just a little naive at that point in time and didn't know what I didn't know. So I didn't know how bad I had it. But after a year or two of just, thinking that was going to be the model that we were going to run with, with the college kid labor and helping mostly college students, I realized, well, this is not going to work because college students only move during like 6 weeks out of the year. They don't have any money, so they're not willing to pay, rates that you need to charge in order to stay in business. And then having, a bunch of college kids that can be unreliable at times is probably not the best labor force to tap into. So after probably 2 or 3 years of kind of banging my head against the wall, figuring that out, we decided, this is going to be more of a traditional moving company, which isn't originally what I set out to do. And I realized that was kind of the only real way to make it in this business. But I loved it. I was obsessed with it for those first few years. And I mean, it was all I could talk about. I'd like one of my roommates at the time was my first manager that helped me with things, and him and I would go on the trucks a lot, and we'd go to the bar afterwards with our tip money and have a couple of drinks, and I would just be talking about all these ideas that I had. And he's like, can we not talk about moving? We were doing that all day. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess you're right. You probably aren't as obsessed with this as I am. But I think you kind of have to be obsessed, especially in the beginning, because you just have to find those opportunities. And eventually it evolved away from Craigslist. We got a good SEO team on board, and we were able to get a lot more, a bigger digital footprint. We were able to start getting some repeat and word of mouth referral business. Made a lot of mistakes, and it probably took me 5 to 7 years before we really actually started making any money. And at some point during that 5 to 7 year period, I decided I needed to open a second location in a completely different market 2 hours away, which brought me down to Tampa, which today I don't regret. But at the time, it was probably not the best, wisest decision. But again, I didn't know what I didn't know. Everything I learned in school, in the business school at Florida, went right out the window when it came to reality. And I learned more in my first year or two of running an actual business than I probably learned in 13 plus years of schooling. So, that was definitely a big eye opener. And I realized that this business is relatively easy to get into, but it's hard to succeed in.
Well said. Both of those stories are really intriguing. I'd have to give probably the tougher road to go through with Chad, having to deal with a fatality early on in a business. But thanks both for being just so candid about what it takes to get through this, and how you've got to pivot and how you've got to be obsessed. I want to ask you both a question. We'll start with you, Chad. When was that moment when you thought, you know what, this just might work out? Was that right from the get-go, or was there a light bulb moment, an epiphany, something like that, where you look around and go, you know what, this is going to work out? Do you remember that moment?
Okay, so the
Or
first,
if you've even had it yet?
yeah, well, I have, thank God. But the first 3 years, I was paying myself $21,000 a year, and we would profit $1,000 a month if we were lucky, if we didn't have too many damage claims. And I got to the point where, damage claims are building up. I don't have enough money to pay good quality help. So the guys are showing up when they want to, or just, not guys that you would really want working for you. And I was everything kind of kept building up, building up, building up. And I just got to my breaking point one day, and I was just like, I am done. I'm done. I said, I'm going to charge. I was at that time charging $109 an hour for 2 movers in a truck. I said, I'm going to charge $149 an hour for 2 movers in a truck. And if they don't want to pay it, tough. I don't want to do it. It's not worth my time. So the first month I did that, I made 20 grand that month. And I was like, oh, dang, okay. I can take this pain for 20 grand a month. That's what I make in a year, But that was some big money to me back then. And then the next month I got busier. And then the next month was when we had the accident and the fatality, and just ripped the rug right out from under my feet, right when I was, getting some traction, feeling good. But my aha moment that changed everything for me, and I'm sure people have heard me say this a million times, but was Wade invited me to a mastermind in Scottsdale, Arizona, with 16 other moving company owners, and they were all like big heavy hitters. I mean, we're talking anywhere from $1 million to, I think the highest was 12 million at that time. And I went there, and we basically talked moving the whole trip. It wasn't much of a structured breakout groups. We sat in a circle for like 30 minutes and introduced ourselves and our company size and things like that. And the rest was kind of just like a pool party, bachelor party, fun, wild, but very educational. And it was very eye-opening to me to hear the stories of how everybody else was started, and how they run their moving company, and how they live their life and their habits and things like that. And that was just like a light bulb clicked for me. And because I was kind of a skeptical kid at that stage in the game, and everybody wants to sell you something. You don't know who to believe, right? So these guys wanted nothing from me except for to help me, so you could trust the information that was coming from those guys. And there are a lot of my friends today were those guys, and it was everything changed for me after that. So I was able to 5x my business in just a couple of years. I was able to rent a 20,000 square foot warehouse. I started my storage side of things. I started my long distance side of things, and just hit the ground running, and just grew and grew and grew. And it was way easier running a $2 million company at that time than running a $800,000 company, because I was able to hire an ops manager and a general manager and have a sales team and all that stuff. And it just, that weekend actually sparked why Wade and I started the Moving Titan Retreat, because we're like, man, that was super helpful, but no structure. We could do this better. We could do it way better. So him and I put structure into it, and we started hosting them. And then it kind of snowballed, no pun intended, to into the big conference that it is today. And the big conference is amazing. We get around 300 moving company owners out each year, once a year. And we're actually now we're starting to bring back the smaller masterminds. We have one next month in June in Scottsdale, Arizona. We rented a big mansion with a lazy river and pickleball courts and pool tables.
I heard that one's almost sold out. Do you have
we
any
have
seats left on
we
that
have
one?
one bed left and one king suite left. And also, if you're local or you just want to come and stay offsite, we can fit a few more in for that. But yeah, it's gonna be amazing. It's a totally different vibe than the moving conference, because you are literally in this house with 20 other moving company owners. You're eating, breathing, sleeping, moving all day long with these guys. You're building bonds. You're getting to know more about the personal side of them. And you are actually, you're breaking down those barriers, and people are more apt to share with you when in that environment. So I'm really excited for that one. We got a good structure coming for it, and it's going to be super valuable for everybody that comes to it. And that was, like I said, we do that because that's what changed the game for me. And that's why I so strongly believe in it. It's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's the quickest way to level up. That's the cheat code in the game of moving.
Wait, that's got to feel pretty good. I mean, his aha moment basically centered around you inviting him out to a mastermind meeting. So that's got to feel pretty
He
good.
gets 10% of my profit for that. So
For life.
That's right. That's awesome. So Wade, help me understand a little bit about when was that aha moment for you?
Yeah, I'd say it was probably about 5 years into the business. And Louis Massaro kind of came onto the scene, and I saw that one of my competitors went out to his very first conference out in Arizona, and I was like, dang, like I'd been seeing some of the advertisements. I'd heard about it. I was like, I can't really afford to go to this thing. But when I saw that they were out there, I was like, I got to go to the next one. Like they're learning some secrets that I need to learn. So basically scraped together my pennies at the time and flew out to the Louis Massaro conference. And I just remember sitting in that room around, there's probably, I don't know, 100, maybe 200 moving companies there. And it was like I'd been living in the dark for the last 5 years, and somebody had just flipped the light switch on and finally given me the blueprint that I was looking for. Because up until that point, I was trying to find every business book I could. I was trying to just find the answers, and there just was no real resources for moving company owners at that point in time. And then, Lewis came onto the scene, and after that event, I went home. I couldn't wait to rush back, and I implemented pretty much every single thing that he had talked about in that conference. And from there, it just changed the game. Seeing how many ads I could post on Craigslist was no longer my best marketing strategy. And it was finally, I learned about postcards. I learned about, how to set up landing pages, what SEO really is, like how to do it for moving, how to have a sales process and not neglect the leads, to actually hire real sales people and not just a receptionist to answer the phone and take orders. And so from that point forward, I just tried to absorb as much as I could. And it allowed me to connect with a lot of other moving company owners that, I felt like I'd been living on an island for a while. And that's ultimately kind of how I started the podcast, was building some of those connections and reaching out to the moving company owners that I was able to meet, and just having these conversations on, asking the questions that I wanted answers to in different markets. And I was like, man, this is such good information. I got to start recording this stuff, and started asking if I could make it into a podcast with the people I was talking to on these phone calls. And that's ultimately how the podcast started as well. And it helped to expand my network. The Moving Company Owner Unite Facebook group was just starting around that time too. So it's kind of like all these things started to come together, and this community started to just naturally develop around the industry. And it allowed not only myself, but really every moving company around the country to connect and, not feel alone like I had felt for so long, just trying to figure this whole thing out and learning from people that had already been there, that had gone through the same struggles that I had gone through, how they got past it, how they kept going to those next levels. And ultimately, led to building the network that we have today with the Moving Titans. And the podcast is still an amazing source of information for me. And I selfishly do it. Not only, I obviously want to help the community, but I have genuine questions, and I really only talk to people that I'm genuinely interested in learning from. And I think a lot of people, have a lot of the same questions. And, I'm just happy that it's been able to help as many people as it has at this point. But I'd say just getting into that room with other people that were in my position or ahead of me, and seeking out that mentorship was the magic bullet that I needed.
You both said something that I really liked. You kind of talked about your aha moment kind of happening around a time when you connected with other people, right? You had like this sense of loneliness doing it yourself. I remember in 2007 when I started my agency, all by myself, and ran that for 10 years, and it was just a grind. And it was this sense of loneliness and am I doing this right? And you read about these success stories in business books and things like that, but there's nothing like just being shoulder to shoulder with other people that are in the same boat as you. And you both kind of touched on that connection piece is when that aha moment happened. Looking back at your early days, both of you, if you could go back and just, grab that young Chad or that young Wade by the shoulders and shake him a little bit and tell him one thing, just so that just something. And maybe your answer is run for the hills. But whatever it is, what would you tell them to prepare them for what's coming down the line?
Well, I would take young Chad, who has the idea of, I'm going to start a moving company, and I'm going to slap him across the face, and I'm going to say, no, you're not going to start a moving company. Honestly, I probably would do that. Hey, everything is fine and dandy now, and business is great, and the team is amazing, and we're making money, and we're growing, and it's awesome. But, I just think, and this is, Wade probably is like, shut up, Chad. But I think, it's a bad business model, okay? We are employing people that want to pick up heavy stuff and put it down every day in the hot sun. And those guys, most of the time, can't get a regular job for some reason. And then we're going to have those guys drive 26,000-pound tanks down the road with other people. And then someone moves once every 6 or 7 years, as the statistics say. So repeat and referral business takes a long, long time to get that ball rolling. And everybody thinks they can move furniture themselves, because it's not like, hey, I'm asking you to fix my air conditioner. Hey, I'm asking you to pick up this chair and put it in the truck and get it there. Anybody can do that. So a lot of people don't see value in it, and they always want to try to devalue it. Did I miss anything? But
you sold me on it. Like
it is kind of a crappy.
I want to start a moving company tomorrow.
Yeah, it's kind of a crappy business model. But that being said, if you're willing to sacrifice and go through a long period of time of struggle and heartache and headache, and I think that comes with anything. I think moving is extra hard, but there is a silver lining at the end of it. And I honestly, I say all that to say that I am grateful that I did go through this experience. It has made me into the man I am today, and I feel like, God dang, I can do anything after growing a moving company. And I've met some amazing people along the way, and I have built an amazing team. That's my why, is just making sure that we take care of all of them. They bleed blue and green, and I am the captain of the ship, and I am going to get everybody to that Caribbean island out there so we can all have a good time.
But you'd make sure young Chad knew that, hey, this is going to be a grind.
Yes, I would, definitely. And I'd be lying if I said otherwise. It's not. I will tell you this. Some people do make it look easy. Chris Sweet, he went to 5 million like this. He made it look super easy. But there's and Winston made it look super easy. He's already at a couple million just after a year or two. And it took me a long time to get there. But Winston also was in the game. He's with, what's his recruiting company?
Move Up
Consulting. He was consulting with moving company owners all throughout the thing. He was at a ton of our events. So he kind of knew the playbook before he started. So that was a smart play on his part. But one thing that I see, the quality that everybody has to be successful, one of the main ones, and it's something I didn't have at the beginning, and it's all about the customer experience and making sure that is 100%. Even if you are in the right, you still, if the customer is wrong, you still make them right. You concede to let them win. It's better to have raving fans and than to have one person just talking crap behind your back. I think that slows you down. And you got to charge properly. You got to know how to charge. You can't provide a good customer experience, or if you're not charging enough, because you can't pay the employees enough, and you can't take care of claims properly either when they come arise. So I would say just always look for the win-win-win. What's a win for the customer? What's a win for the guys? What's a win for the company? And try to make that that happen every time.
What about you, Wade? What would you add to that?
Yeah, I think setting my ego aside and not trying to reinvent the wheel and get into, try to revolutionize this business that I actually had no idea anything, I didn't know anything about, and seeking mentorship and asking for help from people that had done what I was ultimately trying to do. And ultimately at that point in time, I was just trying to make some money and be successful. I had all these friends that graduated college with me that went off and they started making, a lot of money working a regular 9 to 5. And there were times where I'm like, dang, like, man, I could be, taking vacations and I could be, getting some nice things, but I sacrificed most of my 20s and, saw a lot of people going, starting families, getting the white picket fence, doing the whole, rat race thing. And there were definitely those moments where I questioned if I made the right decision. But then when I met this community of successful moving company owners, I realized that there is a path here, there is a way, and there is a blueprint to follow. And it's not talked about because it's a different model than any other business. To echo what Chad said, our people are our inventory, and it's a very people driven business. It's there's stores that have inventory that can sit on a shelf for months at a time. And there's other industries in home services where you're hiring a technician who has some level of expertise. But for us, it's this people driven business where we're only as good as the people that we're able to bring in. And you have to be able to relate to the multi-million-dollar customer, and you have to be able to relate to the, back then $10 an hour mover. Now it's closer to 2025, but having that communication skill set to be able to come up here and then come down here and be able to relate to both of them and build trust in both of them is such an important skill set to have in this business. And having the strategies on how to hire and find and recruit and onboard and train the right people is so important. But I think just finding that mentorship earlier on than I did would have saved me years and a lot of headache and made me a lot more money a lot faster. And it would have given me a much stronger foundation than I had at that point in time. And again, going to Chad with the business model, he sees it as a bad business model, but the moving industry has this stigma around it. You talk to anybody off the street and they know someone who had a horrible moving experience with somebody else. And to me, I see a ton of opportunity with that. And that means that, there's something flawed with how this business has traditionally operated. And we're just now, over the last few years, starting to see all these resources come up that are elevating the industry. And there's a lot of really, really good people in it from all different walks of life. You got college graduates, then you got people that didn't make it through high school or even get to high school that can both be successful. But it's identifying, the skill sets that you need and those communication skills that you need to get there. And there's a huge opportunity to raise the standard and lift the bar in this space, because just by doing that separates you from, 90% of your competition because they're just essentially doing the bare minimum that gives the industry that stigma. So overcoming that stigma, providing education into the industry and getting the right people to come on board have been huge. It's a low barrier to entry business. Anybody with a U-Haul truck or a pickup truck can start, kind of like how Chad and I did, but it's a high barrier to success. And that success is ultimately determined by your ability to recognize the patterns and communicate with the different levels of people that you come across with that are essential to succeeding.
You mentioned something there that I want to double click on. It was kind of two things. It was one, the people there at your company are your inventory. That's your most valuable asset there. But then two, you talked about the barrier to entry being so low. I got to think, because it was this way when I was, running a marketing agency. Sometimes I'm home growing my own competition, right? Like these are folks that are going to peel off and start their own thing. Is that something that either of you have run into, and how do you deal with that?
I wish them good luck. It really doesn't bother me at all. I mean, I had to do that at one point in my life. I had to leave my job to start my own thing, and my boss was very motivating at that point. He was like, "Hey, I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep you forever. Go do your thing. I know you're going to make it big." And I would say the same thing to any of my guys that want to do that. You know, like I said, it's a hard ass business. I just let them know what they're getting themselves into, make sure they fully understand, and I wish them the best.
Yeah, I
It's
think
awesome. How
that
about you, Wade?
I agree with that. I mean, the guys that are out on the trucks, they see, you bringing in all this money, all this cash, checks, card payments, couple $1,000 every day, on each move, multiple moves a day, and they're making, $20 an hour, and it's easy to see, wow, like, how much money could I make if I go off and try this? And we've had a few over the years that have tried, but nobody's ever really been successful and become a legitimate competitor, because you have to be you have to have a little bit of a mental illness, and be able to obsess and just keep going when everything hits the fan. And 99% of people just, they don't have that fortitude to be able to handle all of the curveballs and obstacles that come your way. And I mean, they can go ahead and try to get started. I, again, wish them luck, just like Chad. And if I can help them, I'm happy to, because I believe in a mentality of abundance. But there's no real secrets in this business. It all comes down to execution, and your ability to lead multiple levels of people, and to be able to build trust in consumers and people. So it's hard, and it's really not for everyone. But it could happen one day, and it'd be one of the few. It's just it's not going to be nearly as easy. And at this stage, it's going to take anybody who were to start from scratch in the beginning, like we did, several years before they could get to a truly competitive level. And if they don't seek out that mentorship, if they don't, look for the best practices from all the different resources that are now available, it's going to be even longer. And a lot of people aren't willing to do that. They don't have the foresight to be able to see, where the answers are. But even if they had those answers, it'll ultimately come down to execution at the end of the day.
You got to get really good at getting punched in the face and then just smiling afterwards and saying, "May I please have another?" Because that's basically like what it's like running a moving company.
Yeah.
Those entrepreneurial calluses. I love so much about what both of you just shared. I remember an entrepreneur mentor that I had early on, and when he would give me advice, he would always start out by saying, well, being crazy isn't enough. You also need X, Y, and Z. But he always started with the right to entry was you got to be a little crazy first. I mean, that's obvious.
Yeah.
And so just acknowledging like, hey, you got to be a little crazy to to be trying to do your own thing. Both of you have seen a lot of movers in your day. You've talked to them, you've networked with them, they've been at your Moving Titan retreats. What is it? And I love the word pattern here. What are patterns that the movers have? What are like habits that they have, these movers that actually you see that their revenue continues to grow versus those movers that stagnate and they plateau in their revenue? What is it that separates one from the other? Wade, what do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to getting out from working inside your business to being able to work on your business and developing systems and processes so that you can delegate, because that's ultimately the only way to scale. There's only so many hours in a day, and you only have so much bandwidth to be able to get things done yourself. And I think the most successful movers that I've seen, they bring in great talent, they bring in A players, and they're not afraid to pay for them. And they also have systems and processes in order to be consistent and to scale that, so that they're not all contingent on one A player. And a lot of times that's themselves. They're getting off the trucks, they're getting out of dispatch, they're getting out of most of the sales, and out of a lot of the roles in the company, and they're able to find great talent to put in those roles. And sometimes that talent may not have any moving experience whatsoever, but they've got the right systems and processes and the training protocol to be able to copy paste and replicate that and scale it, so that all you really need to do is look for somebody with a great attitude and that works hard, is disciplined, and willing to learn, and then they can learn it. And, they say A players run circles around B players. It can take 4 B players to create the same output as 1 A player. And I think a lot of the time owners are, and might steal this from Chad. I don't know if he's going to say it, but be a penny smart and a dollar stupid. That's one of his favorite sayings. And they're trying to, fight a mover over a $1 an hour raise, or they're trying to, get an operations manager who's going to work 6 days a week, and then take calls after hours for $60,000 a year. And, that's not going to bring the right attitude and the right hustle and the right, ability to demonstrate their skill set and talent. So I think getting around good talent, it could be a contractor. Maybe it's a great bookkeeper. Maybe it's a great vendor in some other area, a great marketing agency. Being able to recognize those titans of industry and their expertise, and work with them, and then bring in great talent to your team and take care of them. Make sure that you build an awesome culture. I think that's another really big one, is having that culture where everybody's working for more than just the paycheck. They work for the fulfillment and the overall mission. For us, that's to make raving fans on every move.
Chad, what would you add to that? The difference between movers that plateau and those where their revenue continues to be, up and to the right.
I mean, I think Wade hit all the points that I would have hit.
I mean, he was even stealing your quotes.
I know.
So I think
You don't let him go first, but no. I think they are really okay. I think we've all been there, but you make that one hire and it's just like a game changer for your company. I think people, like finding the right people, is one of the most important things you can do, and you need to take it really seriously from the get-go. And sometimes you can't afford the right people from the get-go, but you always gotta either, if you can't afford the right people, they need to be coachable, and you need to lift them with you. Some people aren't willing to ride that elevator, or just always be looking to top grade and find better talent. Customer service, like I talked about before, just making sure that if you screw something up, you take care of it, and you always keep the customer needs to feel like, wow, that was worth it at the end of the day, or what a great experience. You can't have them feeling like, man, I just got scammed, or, that wasn't what they told me it was going to be, or, whatever. You can't have them feeling that. Work on the biz, not in the biz. It's your job as the CEO is to grow your company, and you can't do that if you're handling sales and marketing and, coaching the movers and dispatching and all that stuff. You got to take off all the hats, and you got to be able to focus on growing the company. And if you can't take off all those hats yet, that needs to be your focus on building those systems and processes and building that team to take off those hats for you. And then creating a culture where A players thrive. You need to make sure that this is a good, clean, fun company to come to, where winners, you have it set up to where winners can win. Right? You need to have an incentive pay and make sure that they are in control if they make a lot of money or not. And then I would say that these people that grow their companies really quick, they're not afraid to invest into the proper education, the conferences, the training, the marketing sources, any of the tools that they need to run their business, AI automation stuff, whatever, into VAs. Like, they are willing to spend the money. It's not about the money to them. It's about the growth I see. It's not like, how much do I get to take home for some of these guys that are growing so fast. It's like, how much of that top line can we get? So I think they have a little bit of that mindset too.
One thing that I've recently realized is that a company's growth is really only limited by the bandwidth of its operational leadership. And that comes down to who's operating, that could be in sales too, operating in the sales and the processes and things like that. But that's one thing I've learned firsthand, is that, people that took you to one level, a lot of times aren't going to be, and most of the time aren't going to be the people that take you to that next level, because they just tap out at their operational leadership bandwidth. And that's a really key element, is finding people that have proven results at that next level, and not being afraid to set your ego aside and hire somebody smarter or better than you at any specific role in the company. And when you can do that, a lot of owners subconsciously, I think, are afraid to hire, somebody smarter or better than them because they're so stubborn and stuck that their way is the best way. But you got to be willing to learn, and you got to be willing to invest in your own growth, but also in people that are farther along than you, and maybe they do know more about this one little thing, and be open-minded to that.
I want both your quick take on a scenario like this, because you both said a couple of things that have brought this question to mind. You talk about building this awesome team and this culture, and getting people and being willing to pay for them. You talk about being so customer centric and really trying to look out for them, and then also building your business. So I actually see three things. I see your team, I see your customer, and then I see your business. What about on a move when these three things collide? One of your folks messes up, or there's a damage, and your customer is pissed, and if you side with the customer, your crew's going to be pissed, and you could make them both happy, but then your bank account's going to be pissed. Like, what do you do when these three essential things, on the truck, day of the move, when these things collide? How do you navigate through that so that you don't kill the culture with your folks, you don't piss off the customer, and you don't just cost yourself an arm and a leg?
So first of all, that's just another day in the moving industry.
You're like, that's a Tuesday, Todd.
I didn't go to college. Well, I dropped out the first year, so I saved a ton of money on education that now I spend for moments like that. So the bank account gets hurt on our side. But what we do, I just look at it as a learning opportunity and a coaching moment. So, okay, we damaged something. Sorry, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, here's the damage claim form. We'll, have our customer service team reach out to you, and we just keep it moving. And then we have our operations manager pull the team aside and do an after action review on what happened. Was it preventable? Does anyone need more training? And we put them through that, and then we just make it right with the customer. The bank account's the one that gets hurt on that one, but it's only temporarily, because we're going to fix it and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Oh, nice. Wade, any color you would add to that?
Yeah, I think a lot of it just comes down to the communication on all sides, and setting boundaries with the customer, and policies and procedures with the crews. And when you can communicate that so that it's clear and both parties understand it, then it helps to eliminate those problems. When there's uncertainty in it, and you've got, and a lot of this just comes from experience, having to learn the hard way, and you see a problem. Okay, well, we need a policy for cell phones now. We need a policy for headphones out on the job site. What's our policy for hoarders? If we come into a house and there's cockroaches everywhere and feces on the furniture, like what are we going to do? And I think it really comes down to making sure that, the guys are in a safe working environment, but at the same time, if this is not an imminent hazard to their health, then sometimes it's not always going to be easy and sunshine and rainbows. But there's that balance. Where are the boundaries with the guys? What are you going to let them get away with? What are you going to let the customers get away with? Because we all know the customer's only right about 94% of the time. There's still about 6% of the time where people are trying to pull one over on you or take advantage of you. And if you can have everything clearly written out, you ask the right questions ahead of time, you're hiring the right people that are sometimes willing to suck it up and maybe do a little bit more than what their role necessitates them to do. And you have written policies and procedures. I think there's just so many moving companies that don't have any standard operating procedures. And it's just crazy to me that they're able to, operate on a day-to-day basis. But a lot of times those are the same ones that have a lot of headaches, and, they don't have money to invest in their education and everything else because they haven't put those procedures in place and those policies in place and the communication on all sides.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. These are the long form conversations that I love, and that I think people get when they come to something like the Moving Titan Retreat, where they can sit down with other movers that have been here before, and they can just pick their brain and ask them some of these sticky questions. So the Moving Titan Retreat is coming up. Why should a moving company owner come to the Moving Titan retreat instead of just sign up for some webinar somewhere? What are they going to get here that they won't get anywhere else?
Well, first of all, your competition is going to be there, so you better get there.
I
No,
like
but
that. That's the best answer ever.
so this is the meeting of the moving company owners. Like I said, it's not what you know, it's who you know. You're one connection away from leveling up, from getting that information. You're one nugget away from that aha moment that's going to take you to the next level. And you're not going to learn it at home by yourself, surrounded by your movers. You're going to learn it surrounded by guys that are actually doing the same thing in other states, in other markets. You got guys all the way from 200,000 to 25 million that are going to be there. And then also this one is going to be super tactical. We have all the speakers, I would say 90% of the speakers are moving company owners. And we are talking about marketing, sales, operations, dispatch, safety, compliance, culture, everything. This is going to be something where you're going to leave with like information overload and you won't even be able to implement everything before the next retreat comes up. So, Wade, you can probably sell it better than me because you're a salesman, but that's my pitch.
I mean, I don't even think we have to sell it. I think, the people that come year over year over year, and there's a reason for that. And I think the biggest magic happens, the speakers are great, the workshops and the information that's provided is like drinking water out of a fire hose. But I think the magic really happens from those backroom conversations. We do a lot of things at these retreats where we work out together. We have dinners, meals together. We have fun activities. We did a pickleball tournament at the last one. And it's really building that brotherhood of people that are all ambitious, trying to get to the next level and making the connections so that you have a contact in every corner of the country. Whether you have a truck driving that way and you need some help with something, or you just want to call and hear what's working in different markets and how different people do different things. And then the bonds and the friendships and the contacts that people meet carry on throughout the entire year. And then it's just the reason for us all to get together and, reunite and see where everybody is. And I like to say, you should spend 30% of your time learning from people that are ahead of you, 30% of your time pushing people that are at your level, and 30% of your time helping people that are below you because you were there at one point and people were helping you. And then 10% of your time reflecting and piecing it all together and processing all of the stuff. Because I don't know about Chad, but I can learn from somebody who's just getting started and grinding and hustling and finding little innovative ways to grow from the beginning. And then obviously you can learn from people that are above you, and then the people that are at your level, which Chad and I are similarly sized companies. We push each other and we don't want the other one to pass us up. And you build that bond and that brotherhood. And I can honestly say I've met a lot of my best friends to this day from either our event or events like our event. And those conversations continue on a really daily basis. I mean, we were just in a text group conversation with 6 or 7 of the guys that have been with us since the beginning today, just, talking about different things. And I think it's also therapeutic at the same time, because a lot of times you don't have anybody close to you. A therapist doesn't know about the moving industry. A lot of times your spouse doesn't know about the moving industry, even if you tell her, everything that's going on. But Chad does. I can call Chad with things that I can't call anybody else about and get his take on it. And it gives me an outlet to vent and to, kind of not have to carry that on my shoulders solo. And that's really what I think we're doing. We bring together moving company owners and experts.
Wade made a good point how, some of these bigger guys, they can still learn from the smaller guys. Some of them are just like, oh, you're a $1 million company, I'm 10 million. Like, don't talk to me. I don't have time for you. There's some people that are out there like that. But here's a good example. Eric Works was probably an $8 million company, $6 or $8 million company at this time. And he ran into a small $250,000 company at an event, or maybe it was on a Facebook group or whatever. But they were talking about this booking fee that they were charging. And he's like, booking fee? Never heard anything like this. And then he's like, that's actually gold. And he implemented it in his company and now makes 150 grand a year off booking fees. One little thing like that. Would you spend $5 grand to go to a conference to make 150 grand a year? It's little stuff like that you don't even like think about that you'll pick up along the way just by being in the right room with the right people.
Guys, you have been very gracious with your time. Like, seriously, I appreciate it. And if people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way they can do that if they want to pick your brain or ask you questions? And more specifically, if they want to, jump in and grab a seat for the Moving Titan Retreat, what's the best way for them to do that?
Best way for you to get a hold of me and ask me questions is just take up that last king bedroom at the Scottsdale event, and I'll be available for 3 days. But no, I would say email is best for me. Chad@moverswithmanners.com.
Yeah, I think, get a hold of me. I'm on social media. I'm pretty easy to find if you just look up my name, Wade Swikle, on Facebook or @Wade Swikle on Instagram. That's, feel free to send me a message and connect that way. And
Might take them a month to get back to you.
I get a lot of messages.
If they want to grab some tickets, if they want to grab some tickets for the Moving Titan Retreat, where's the best place for them to go?
Yeah, so just movingtitanretreats.com. You can go check that out. Just Google Moving Titan Retreats. If you forget that website, our phone number's on there. You'll probably talk to Faith, and she can get you set up, or you can just book them straight through the website at movingtitanretreats.com.
Excellent, everybody. So check out movingtitanretreats.com. It's right here. It'll also be in the description. Hey, give us a little 20 seconds on the Tighten Up training, Chad. I want to hear about it.
Oh man, well, if you are looking for a good quality training program for your company, we created Tighten Up Training, which has sales training, it has marketing secrets, it has mindset, it has leadership, it has all the mover training you're going to need, how to wrap, how to pack, how to load. The coolest thing about it right now is you can customize it to your company. So if you have your own processes and procedures or your own training videos that you want to add to this, you can add them with the accountability aspect of the quizzes afterwards. So basically, like Wade and I have ours set up. We have each role in the company with its own training program. So if I lose my operations manager or my dispatcher or my GM, I have every process and procedure that everyone needs to know with quizzes afterwards, and it's going to make replacing them a lot easier than I would without it. And it just makes you look like a baller and like you have your shit together when you're onboarding new hires, when you roll out this training program that was shot in high production Hollywood theater and with two handsome men like Wade and I on there, teaching you guys how to move furniture and how to sell moves and how to book moves. But it's super useful. Like I said, Wade and I struggled our first 5-6 years trying to find all this information. Now we bring it to you at a click of a button, and we've got some great specials going on right now on the annual subscription. So check it out. If you want to look like you have your crap together and have a great training program in-house, this is the one for you. And you can find that on tightenuptraining.com or hit up our girl Faith.
Oh, sorry, I was just going to say you can host your SOPs on it and white label it. So with us, we use it for Two College Brothers University. And we just had several key people just start. We had a new operations manager and actually lost 2 great salespeople that were accounting for 80% of our sales revenue due to some family personal issues. And we were able to get an operations manager into that role up to speed in a week because of the Two College Brothers University hosted on Tighten Up training with our systems processes, the training that's already there. And our salesperson just started last week, and he has already booked more than any of our salespeople for that same period of time in 1 week. So it really does expedite the onboarding experience. And like Chad said, it feels legit when you can white label it and have your own process and link, log in through your website to make it look like it's a homegrown product, when in reality, you have your own stuff on there, your own SOPs and videos and any training programs that you have, but it also comes with over 250 of those videos too. So it helps you, get started and roll that out with the onboarding.
Hey, you two, you have been fantastic. Thanks so much for letting me just pick your brain and for giving us a little teaser about the upcoming, retreat, and really appreciate you joining us today on the Snowball Effect.
All right, last thing for you guys. You ready? I say Titan, you say up. Titan.
Up.
Titan.
Up.
Up.
God, you guys are terrible.
I love it. And with that, remember the tighten up training. Hey, and Chad, will you send us out? Give us another attempt at the tighten up chant. All right, send us out with another high energy. And this time, Wade and I aren't going to let you down.
I don't know if I can trust you guys anymore. Are you sure you got this? Don't make me do this for nothing.
All right, let's do it.
All right, guys. I say tighten. You say up. Tighten. Tighten. You get plenty more of that.
I think the lag, there might be a little lag on there, but we did a little better.
At the very least, this is going to make for a great blooper reel, and I've got people looking at me from outside the office, so it was worth it for that. Hey, thank you so much, you two. You're so much fun. Thanks for all the insight, and thank you, everybody, for joining the Snowball Effect podcast. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, stay on, everybody. Oh, give me one more. Just if both of you can just say, hey, see you later.
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 I
love it.
Later.
Hey, see you later.
There we are.
See you.
This is good. I'm making a clip that just is a compilation of your see you laters.